wealth is available to everyone, but we have to step on the scale and we have to do the work.
You're listening to Permission to Offend, the show that helps you live a life fully self-expressed so you can easily step up to your next level of faith, worth, and wealth. Each week, I show you how to stand up, speak up, and own your power without worrying about being judged or offending others. I'm your host, Rachel Luna, and it's time to get offensive. Let's go. What's going on? It's your girl, Rachel Luna. You're listening to the Permission to Offend podcast. And today we are talking about one of my favorite topics, and that is money, money, money. Now, many of you know I am a Christian, but I do not subscribe to that BS religiosity. Money is evil. No. Okay, the Bible says that we are supposed to have an abundant and prosperous life, which is why I'm so excited that my guest today, Krisstina Wise, is here with us. She is a financial health coach, author, serial entrepreneur, runner, frequent laugher, which that's me too, girl. So we will have some good laughs today for sure. Before we get into it, let me tell you a little bit about Krisstina. Krisstina has made it her life's work to master money. And I love that because that's what we need to make sure that we're paying attention to, is that we master money, that money does not become our master. She is a self-made multimillionaire with the equivalent of at least 2 PhDs of intense study with some of the business world's most sage and seasoned mentors. Her training and experience have built proven systems that work in both good and challenging times, which is perfect for the season that the world is sort of heading into with all this talk about recession. Krisstina is going to give us some great strategies. And after nearly losing her life in 2013 and spending almost $500,000 to recover, Kristina's mission is now to inspire others to build extraordinary wealth and optimal health. I'm here for all of this, Krisstina. But y'all, I'm not even done yet. This is why I know that today's episode is going to be so good, because we are not done yet. Krisstina was named one of the 100 most influential real estate leaders in the country. She's been featured in USA Today and recognized by Apple and Evernote for her creative leadership with emerging technologies. She's an international speaker, an award-winning author of the Amazon best-selling book, Falling for Money, a romance novel for your bank account. Doesn't that sound so juicy? I love it. Now, friends, Krisstina may wear athletic clothes and a baseball cap for almost any occasion, which, girl, you are after my own heart, because I only have 2 modes. I'm either hitting the stage or I'm hitting the bed. There's no in between. But don't let that fool you, friends, because financial sovereignty means the freedom to choose. And Krisstina chooses to show up in a baseball cap instead of a Lamborghini, even though she could choose the latter. What's going on? It's your girl, Rachel Luna. You're listening to the Permission to Offend podcast. And today we are talking about one of my favorite topics, and that is money, money, money. Now, many of you know I am a Christian, but I do not subscribe to that BS religiosity. Money is evil. No. Okay, the Bible says that we are supposed to have an abundant and prosperous life, which is why I'm so excited that my guest today, Krisstina Wise, is here with us. She is a financial health coach, author, serial entrepreneur, runner, frequent laugher, which that's me too, girl. So we will have some good laughs today for sure. Before we get into it, let me tell you a little bit about Krisstina. Krisstina has made it her life's work to master money. And I love that because that's what we need to make sure that we're paying attention to, is that we master money, that money does not become our master. She is a self-made multimillionaire with the equivalent of at least 2 PhDs of intense study with some of the business world's most sage and seasoned mentors. Her training and experience have built proven systems that work in both good and challenging times, which is perfect for the season that the world is sort of heading into with all this talk about recession. Krisstina is going to give us some great strategies. And after nearly losing her life in 2013 and spending almost $500,000 to recover, Kristina's mission is now to inspire others to build extraordinary wealth and optimal health. I'm here for all of this, Krisstina. But y'all, I'm not even done yet. This is why I know that today's episode is going to be so good, because we are not done yet. Krisstina was named one of the 100 most influential real estate leaders in the country. She's been featured in USA Today and recognized by Apple and Evernote for her creative leadership with emerging technologies. She's an international speaker, an award-winning author of the Amazon best-selling book, Falling for Money, a romance novel for your bank account. Doesn't that sound so juicy? I love it. Now, friends, Krisstina may wear athletic clothes and the baseball cap for almost any occasion, which, girl, you are after my own heart, because I only have two modes. I'm either hitting the stage or I'm hitting the bed. There's no in between. But don't let that fool you, friends, because financial sovereignty means the freedom to choose. And Krisstina chooses to show up in a baseball cap instead of a Lamborghini, even though she could choose the latter. Krisstina, welcome, welcome, welcome.
Well, I'm so excited to be here. I just have to ask, do I have permission to offend?
Please, yes, offend us with your truth. Offend us with your beliefs, offend us with your values. We are here for all of it. And before you and I began recording, I was telling you about the quiz that I took that you offer. And I just want to make sure that we talk about that right away. So friends, Krisstina has a really fantastic quiz. Can you drop the link for us, Krisstina? Can you tell me the link? So is it wisemoneymethod.com? /quiz.
/quiz. Yes.
So wisemoneymethod.com /quiz. It's 10 questions. It's super quick, but it's also really eye-opening. Krisstina, can I just tell you, when I started to take the quiz, I was like, oh, I've got this. Because I have a great bookkeeping firm, which I've spoken about. I felt like they really helped me grow up my business. I do the monthly P&L. We pay attention to profit. But then you asked a very interesting question. You said, do you have a personal balance sheet? What is that? I mean, is that the best place to start? You tell me, what's the best place to start? Because
let's just start there. It's a great question to start, because it really says a lot. And when I say permission to offend, the reason why I ask that is because most of what we've been sold and taught about money is complete bullshit.
Oh yes, tell me more.
And it's designed to keep us trapped. And it's a rigged system, which means we're in this financial system and this financial construct, if you will, that's been given to us one way or another, and it's rigged. Mm-hmm. And it's like going to Vegas and the house always wins. Right. So if we're not aware of the game we're playing, the house is going to take our money. And it's kind of one system like that. So, but we don't know that. We're just living and working inside of it. So part of that is that our naivete about money keeps us trapped and stuck, regardless of how much money we make in our business, regardless of how hard we work. And the biggest difference is that there's two money games, and we're playing one or the other. And if we're not aware of which one we're in, we're probably in the other. And one money game is called the income game.
Okay.
And the other money game is called the wealth game. So especially as entrepreneurs, and all the stuff that's sold to us out there as entrepreneurs, like how to go from 5 figures to 6 figures to 7 figures to 8 figures, it's all talking about income. With the kind of illusion or the kind of subconscious belief that income equals wealth. So the biggest, fattest money lie is high income equals wealth. Oh. And it's a subconscious belief. So, but because we believe that, what do? We're always chasing more income. and we're not creating wealth, because wealth is a different game, a different strategy. It's its difference as checkers and chess. May look the same on a game board, have different pieces to opponents on either side, but they're radically different games, therefore radically different strategies. Football and baseball, radically different games, radically different strategies. And just because you're good at one doesn't mean you're good at the other. So that's the biggest thing. And so how do we know which game we're in?
Tell us. Yeah.
By asking the question,
Listen.
do I know what do I have a personal balance sheet? And am I tracking those numbers? Because those numbers, the numbers that are meaningful, the income, the P&L and the P&L in my business is just a means to the end. It's not the end. And if we don't know what to do, if we don't know what the end is, it's represented on the balance sheet. We're just in the income and expense game. What that means is, if we draw a grid and we have incomes and expenses on the left-hand side, draw a grid, income in one box, expenses in the other box. Most of us are just in that box, and what I call the left side. So we make more income. What happens to our expenses?
They go up.
Right. Our business makes more money. We double our profit. We think, Yahoo, I'm even focused on profit. I'm ahead of like most entrepreneurs who don't even know what profit is. They're just trying to make more income, i.e. revenue in a business. But what happens is we pay ourselves more and our expenses go up more. And our lifestyle does.
Can I just attest to that right now? Okay, I'm going to get super duper vulnerable, and y'all just know I'm taking this for the team, because I don't want to admit to that. I don't want to cop to this, but I feel like it's so important because Krisstina, it's something that's really bothered me in the decade that I've been in the online industry is that the people that have gone before me, and I'm watching them make 6 and 7 figures, they never talk about what it costs to make the 6 and 7 figures. They never talk about what they pay themselves. They never talk about how they're managing the money or how they're cutting. They don't ever tell us anything like that. And it left me feeling so frustrated over so many years. But just this morning, I got my P&L back from December. Now, I will say we had a great top line revenue year, was great. So we did have growth. But to your point of what you've just said, even though I do pay attention to my profit margin, year over year, we did 30% less in profit than last year, which I didn't even realize was happening, even though I'm looking at it every single month. But you're right. We were making more money. Our expenses went up. And when I looked at that number, I was like, oh, wait a second. I feel good about the money that we made. I don't know that I feel so good about the fact that my profit margin was down 30% over last year. I still had a really healthy profit margin in terms of the margins. But it's to your point, how do we change that? Okay, too many questions. Let's take 2 steps back. I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself, aren't I? Okay.
But that's great. You're having awareness. And so when you start to become aware of this, like, wait a second, something isn't working. And that's just it. We're sold top line, top line, top line. But it's all about, hey, let me teach you how to build $1 million business. Great. I want $1 million business. How much does it cost for you to teach me? It's $30,000. All right, well, $30,000, I'll spend that and put it on a credit card if I can make $1 million. What they're not telling you is just $1 million top line. Even if they help you, but you spend $1.3 million to produce $1 million and you take a negative $300,000. Was that a good business decision? But they're not telling you, they're not selling you the whole thing. They're not saying, let me make you $1 million of profit. That's a different promise, right? It's not that hard to make. Like, anybody could go, probably borrow $1 million, spend $1 million on Facebook ads, may or may not. Let's say you make $1 million, but so it's not about that. It's about the money you keep. And it's learning, there's all different formulas for how to make sure that you're not out of balance in your business. But even we're talking about business. Now, one thing we need to understand is how business and personal are interrelated. So when we pay ourselves a profit, we move that profit. Let's just say, my top line, I made $300,000 of revenue last year and I kept $100,000 of profit. So my expenses were $200,000 and I kept $100,000. So what do we do with the $100,000? Well, We pay ourselves $100,000 and we move that out of our business to our personal account. So now we have this lifestyle that's $100,000 in our personal. Now, let's say the next year we double it and we now had a $500,000 business and we profited $200,000. So now we paid ourselves. We went from living a lifestyle of $100,000. Now it's like Yahoo. Now I get to hang out with all the people making $200,000 a year. So our lifestyle cost goes up and our business expenses go up and our household expenses go up when we're not tracking the money appropriately, which most of us don't know how to do that. Even if we're trying to do our best and do better than, let's say, average. But it's something called Parkinson's law. And this is a law. Money has laws. Money has principles. Money has these universal things at work that you have to follow. And if not, you're going to bump up against the wall. You're going to get stuck or you're going to fail. It's like gravity. There's a reason why we don't let our, 2-year-old just toddlers on the edge, on the top of a, 10-story building without any barrier supervision. They don't know the law of gravity, right? So we know if you fall off, kerplunk. But we can't see gravity. We can't feel gravity. We have to learn that gravity exists so that we don't fall victim to gravity's laws. Well, there's all these universal laws at work, and money has its own, and it abides by all the other ones, but we don't know they exist. So we're falling victim to, let's say, the law of gravity of money, and we don't even know it. So Parkinson's law of money says expenses will always rise to match income. And we're talking household. That's what I'm saying, that if we have $100,000, when we make 200, do our expenses stay the same? Does our lifestyle stay the same? No, it's called expense creep. All of a sudden we're trading in for a more expensive car. We're trading in for a more expensive house or apartment. Our dinners are getting more expensive. Our vacations are getting more expensive. And we don't even know it. It's insidious. It's almost invisible. It's just as natural can be. So we're just not aware. And again, because we're this income and expense game. And that's, like I said, that's that one left-hand side of the grid. We're just making income and hopefully kind of managing our expenses to pay our bills. Make money, pay bills, make money, pay bills, make more money, pay more bills. And every time we take on more debt, the cost of our lifestyle goes up. So the mortgage payment goes up. That means our cost of our life goes up. The car payment goes up. The cost of our life goes up. So it's just, again, that's natural. So that's the income game. That's where most people are. And a lot of people make a lot of money. I call them high income broke. Still, they have to work work this month to pay last month's high bills. And the problem with making high incomes is it can make you feel rich. It gives us a little bit of an ego and an attitude. We know we're making more money than most people, but that feeling rich causes us to spend like rich people. And then again, it's still month to month. And a high income broke person means, man, I have to go churn out another month. And you see, the more money we make and the more expenses goes up, that means every month we have to hit those same big things and we never get a relief. And then it goes up from there. Now we're working harder. So the opposite, we're thinking, oh, I'm making so much money. I thought I have more time and freedom, but now I just have more financial stress and all the things and have to every month go hit the redo button and make that amount of money again. And that's the trap. That's the stuckness. We think, well, maybe it still doesn't feel like still feeling financially, anxious or anxiety or frustration. And I just thought by now I'd be feeling relief. I thought I'd feel a surplus. I thought I'd feeling peace. I thought I'd be feeling security. I guess it's at the next level. I need to go work harder. I need to do a bigger business. And that goes on forever because that's that game. That's it. So that's the game we're in until we know by asking ourselves, do I have a personal balance sheet? Only then do we move from the income game to the wealth game, because the wealth game has another side of the grid. It's like, yeah, do I want to make a high income? But I'm really managing those expenses so that the margin between the income and expenses, I can go put assets and liabilities on the other side of the grid, with the idea that I want the assets to go up as income goes up and liabilities go down and manage our expenses. So we're managing the 4-part grid. And the left-hand side of the grid is the profit and loss. And the right-hand side of the grid is the balance sheet. Why? Why do we care about the balance sheet? Because balance sheet represents wealth. So we can be making $500,000 of income and have negative net worth, have negative wealth.
Mm-hmm.
So I think when we ask the question of if we win the money game, how do we know we've won it? I think if I say, who wants financial freedom? Who wants financial peace of mind? Who wants financial security? Who wants prosperous, meaning there's more money coming in and it keeps growing.
Mm-hmm.
I think we will all raise our hand because fundamentally deep inside, we're looking for self-actualization and financial freedom. It's hierarchies need, but financial freedom represents the self-actualization at the highest part of the triangle.
Mm-hmm.
So what that means is when we're in the wealth game, we ask different questions. We manage our money differently.
Mm-hmm.
We get different education and coaching. It's not just coaching on business coaching and buy that $30,000, how do I make 7 figures? It's like, who am I? Who's coaching me and mentoring me? And where am I learning from for wealth creation? Because wealth creation is the path to financial freedom, not a big business. A big business can just make you tired and keep you trapped. And now you're a slave to your business and your high income. So that's what the wealth game is. And the only way to financial freedom, unless, we're going to inherit a bunch of money or we accidentally, get lucky and win the lottery, is we have to create that. And that's strategy. It's knowledge and strategy and intention. And it's seriousness.
Wow. Okay.
And those of us in the wealth game, we not laugh like down, but it's kind of laughable, like, oh, it's kind of kids play that's in the income game. Mm-hmm. Because again, it's a different level of play, a different level of conversation, a different level of scrutiny, a different level of meaning and care, because that wealth number, that sovereignty number means more than anything. But the sovereignty number, which is a financial freedom number, which asks the question of how much money is enough, which are all those questions you start to answer in the quiz, that becomes the North Star. That everything from that North Star, that sovereignty number, is reverse engineered into telling you how much money I need to make in my business. But we're not taught that. We're not taught that we have to start with the end in mind and reverse engineer into our numbers. We're just out there churning and trying to make more money and try to build a bigger business and wondering why we're not getting ahead. So yeah, the balance sheet. And to follow up with that, then the next question is, what is wealth?
What is it?
And so what is wealth? And again, we throw these words out like, oh, wealth or these things, but do we stop to answer the question, like, what is wealth? So, and how do I know if I'm wealthy? Right? Like if we want wealth, don't we want to have a definition of wealth? And what don't we want to know when we're wealthy?
Mm-hmm.
So how can we get there if we don't even know where we're going?
I was going to say, but would you say that to me, I would say, well, that's a personal choice, right? Like I would define what wealth means to me versus what wealth means to, someone with different circumstance or a different vision.
Well, there's some truth in that. So the truth is, wealth as a definition is the same for everyone, but your number for wealth might be different than my number for wealth. Mm-hmm. So let's just say the definition for wealth is that, like, financial freedom, let's say wealth equals financial freedom. Okay. That financial freedom, meaning I have enough wealth, if you will, is that the assets, the cash flow from my assets, the income from my assets, mm-hmm. pays for the cost of my lifestyle. Think of it as a trust fund. So those, kids who get trust funds, mm-hmm. let's say we have a friend, let's say we're working our asses off, month over month, year over year to earn our $200,000 of income. Mm-hmm. We're busting ass in business. We're taking arrows. We're getting up early. We're all the things it takes to make high income, right? Mm-hmm. And we're doing it. And it takes a lot of time. It's called working income. There's only 2 types of income, working income and non-working income. Mm-hmm. So that's called working income. Every morning we're getting our ass up, whether we're tired or sick or not, to go make the donuts. Mm-hmm. Working income. Now, our friend that has the trust fund, what do they have that we don't have? Let's say they have a trust fund that pays them the same amount, $200,000 a year. So there's me freedom. And there's the trust. What do they have? Time freedom. Mm-hmm. So wealth is about having time. It's time choice, time freedom. So what our friend that has a trust fund, could they choose to work the 80 hours in the business that you and I are doing? They could choose to do that. Could they choose to sit on a beach and do nothing but read books and get massages and doing that for what, if they can't spend more than $200,000, they can do that. They get the choice of what to do. They don't have to go do it. So that's the difference. So what wealth is, having wealth is, wealth equals financial freedom. It's having the money, the non-working income that pays for the cost of our lifestyle. So let's say that's fundamental. That's the same. That definition applies to you and applies to me and applies to our trust fund friend. Now, the difference is my number might be 10 million and your number might be 3 million because it depends on the cost of your lifestyle. And what that means is we have to know the cost of our lifestyle. So these numbers need to be calculated. We're not calculating these numbers. We're not architecting our life. We don't know how much it costs. We've not taken a calculator and said, okay, what is my good life and how much does it cost to live it? Oh, if it costs me $200,000 to live my life, that means I'm going to need to earn enough money today that pays for my $200,000 lifestyle. Plus I need to pay taxes. Plus on that, I'm going to have a certain amount of money that I'm going to use to buy assets and do that over a period of time. So those assets grow until those assets grow and pay my $200,000 lifestyle cost. But if my number is $200,000 a year, I might need like $4 million worth of net worth. If yours is $100,000 a year, then you only need $2 million of assets or net worth. So that's where it gets specific. That's why we all need to do our known numbers versus just listening to the dogma out there. Like you need a 7-figure business, you need to make more money, or you need to have a hustle more, or to have side hustles. Maybe, maybe not. It just depends what your numbers are and then what your gap is.
Okay. We need to take like a collective deep breath. And I'll tell you why, Krisstina. I know that for you, this is like, you've been doing this, your nervous system totally aligned. When I feel good. And I also know that if I had heard this conversation even 2 years ago, my nervous system would have been shook. So I want to take a collective breath for my audience because I am seeing 3 clients in particular. Like I'm seeing their little nervous systems are going out of whack because it's like looking at the numbers is such, for so many people, an anxiety-ridden experience. And one of the things that I offer in one of my programs is a money tracker. It's just simple. It just, what'd you make? What's the date? How much dollars did you make? And then I tell them once a week, look at all your numbers, look at your bank account, just check in. And you would not believe, I know you would believe how many people are like, I'm not doing it. I can't look. I'm afraid to look. I'm afraid to see an overdraft or whatever. I want to take like 4 steps back. When you were talking about having like a 6-figure business and thinking like, I should be free. I should be feeling this. How come I don't feel that way? That is exactly how I felt when I had my first 6-figure year, because I thought that yes, look at my little Layla. My puppy Layla wants to be in the conversation. I thought that when I made the 6 figures, then all of a sudden it was going to be breathing room. It was going to be like easy breezy. And it didn't feel that much different than when I was making peanuts. There were more options, yes, but it's not like my bank account was being stacked because, to your point, the expenses were increasing. So now we're here with this balance sheet. So first of all, listeners, take a deep breath. And I just want you to know you're safe and it's okay for us to have these conversations. And if you truly do desire a lifestyle of freedom and wealth, you have to be willing to have these conversations and to look at the numbers and to just ask. Now, when you were saying, do you know what your lifestyle costs? And we're not looking, and you said we're not looking at what it costs. Immediately, I began to think, oh my gosh, I have looked and my lifestyle is so expensive. And you know what came up for me, Krisstina, and maybe you can speak to this because I know if I'm thinking it, someone else is thinking it as well. So you and I have spoken before. I'm a breast cancer survivor. So everything I do is organic food, organic juices, which is exponentially more expensive than just your average, 99-cent Happy Meal from McDonald's thing. When I started looking I use my Apple card to pay for like my meals and stuff because I like the way it gives me the breakdown. When I started looking at how much I spend on eating out every month, it's not shame, but there was like a little bit of, I don't know if it was like shame or I felt bad. What came up for me, Krisstina, was, oh my gosh, my eating out to my juices and everything is like $2,000 a month just to feed me, one human being. And I felt this like, I shouldn't be able to spend $2,000 a month on me alone when there's so many people that are starving and barely making ends meet. Like, why can't I get that number lower? And I'm wondering, like, how do we reconcile that? Because I want to keep eating healthy. Like, I want to eat this way. This way is keeping me healthy. How do we reconcile with when we look at the numbers and that guilt comes in or that blame or shame for how we're spending?
Yeah, well, a lot of that's a little bit of mindset, and it's narrative. So when we break down money's an artifact. It's called currency for exchange. So it's just a means of an efficiency for barter. So back in the day, you had cows and I had sheep, and you wanted a sheep and I wanted a cow. So that means we had to go find somebody else that had a sheep or somebody else that had a cow to be able to transact. And that was the bartering system. It's very inefficient. So all of our money is just a means of exchange. Money has no emotion. It's just a thing. It's like a rock or a pencil or a coffee cup. It's just a thing. We could trade coffee cups for coffee cups, as that was the mean for exchange, but we just have this thing called a dollar or whatever it's called wherever we're located. So any emotion we have attached to money, it's all made up. It's just been given to us. It's just narrative. We've created it. So part of the mindset work was separate than the practical stuff that we're talking about. It's just cleaning a lot of that up and try to come where it comes from, reframe it, and just let it go, which is a whole different exercise. But so the more we can get, like, we make money emotional. Money's not emotional. Money's just a thing.
It's neutral.
So that's yeah, it's neutral. It is. It's just a thing. So again, there's all personal cleanup. But the thing is that, I heard two things there. It's you relative to somebody else.
Yeah.
That's the comparison of relativity game, which you can't win. So it's like, to even go there, there's no win. And what's to say $2,000 a month is too much, but $1,000 a month is just right. Like you can't win with that. So like in that case, it doesn't even quite make sense to go there if we break it down. But the thing is the other piece that I heard in there is it's just kind of the guilt or shame, like, man, I'm overspending. I'm spending $2,000 a month on my health. So the thing is that may or may not be true. If you're going into debt every month to do that with no means to pay it back and that type of thing, yeah, maybe there's some adjustments. But what I like to teach is the concept of trade-off. So we all, like, there's money's this weird thing. I guess this universal truth as well. But on one hand, money is abundant. Like there's no limit to money. Like it's unlimited. We can, that's why there's billionaires out in the world. Like they've created an idea and they've made billions of dollars. Like there's so much money out in the ethers, wherever money lives, right? So there's an abundance of money. Like there's no limit to money that's available to us. On the other hand, in a certain time frame, there's a limit to money. So we only have the amount of money in our bank account. There's the limit. So if we spend beyond the limit, then we've got a problem. When we learn to spend, we're spending inside that limit. And then there's always a trade-off. So if I have $100,000, I get to spend, and you have $100,000, we both have that limit or that container. What you choose to spend the $100,000 on is going to be different than I choose. And there's trade-offs. You're going to trade for things that's like, I don't care about what you're spending it on. This is important to me. So we need to know what's most important. So for you, it might be looking at, to get out of this judgment and the shame and these different feelings we might have, it might be, what's meaningful to me is my health.
It is.
So I'm going to, relative to others, that we shouldn't be comparing ourselves to others anyway, because it doesn't get us anywhere, but relative to others, I spend maybe a lot more money on my health because it has more meaning to me. I've had breast cancer. I've almost died. I had to face these things. So I have a certain meaning attached to that. So I'm going to invest my money. I'm going to spend my money on these things that really matter. And just when it adds up, it's $2,000 a month. Okay. Now, what you might not be spending on, because there's a trade-off, the limitation is maybe you're saying, so what I'm going to trade for that is I'm not going to have a Hulu and ESPN and Netflix and Amazon, a Spotify, all these other things to watch TV and yada, yada, yada. I'm going to trade. I'm not going to have those expenses. Oh, and you know what? A lot of people that make my income, maybe they have a higher rent payment or something. They live in a fancier place. And, the trade-off is, I love my place. It's maybe one bedroom smaller, but I'm going to trade the one bedroom for being able to spend money on my health because I'm inside my container. So again, when we can add these practical pieces and just knowing we're making trades for what's more important to us, now we're all inside limits and we're still growing and learning and moving into abundance. So it's always managing that, staying within limit according to meaning, while we're living in the spirit mindset of abundance and more creation and more prosperity that we can create for ourselves and others. So again, it's a lot of this is just a little bit of tweaking of language, looking at some mindset and just understanding the concept of trade-off.
Okay, I like that. So we clean out the mindset. Let's go back to the personal balance sheet, because you said, you just got to know how to do this. So how do we start, right? Like, how do we start developing this long-term wealth regardless of our income, especially for people that don't have the 6 and 7 figure businesses? What are like our first steps?
Yeah, great question. And like every simple question, I've got like a 5-prong answer. So the first place to start is ask yourself the question, are you wealthy? So that's the first place for everybody to start, is saying, am I wealthy? Yes or no? I've just given us the definition of wealth. Yeah. So am I wealthy? Yes or no? If I say yes, that takes us down a decision tree one other way. And that's a different conversation for the other day. If the answer is no, I'm not wealthy because my passive income does not pay for the cost of my lifestyle. I have to go do hard work every day. Okay. Right? So if I'm not wealthy, the follow-up question is, do I want to be wealthy? Do I want to be financially free?
Right? My listeners do. So let's just go down that
path. All right.
path.
So we're right there, right? So very simple, but these are starting points. So then the third question, kind of the place is, we need to know if we have a Google map and say, hey, I want to go from point A to point B, we have to know point A and we have to know to point B. If you're, in Florida, and you want to go on vacation, but you don't have any clue where you want to go, is there any chance you're going to go on vacation? You can't go somewhere. You have to set the destination. So then, once you set the destination, say, hey, Krisstina, I want to go visit you in Park City, Utah. Aha, now you can create a whole strategy for getting to Park City, Utah. But no strategy if you don't have a destination. Can't create one. Can't Google map it. So now the same thing is, too, you have to know your starting point. So if you say, hey, I know I want to wind up in Park City, Utah, but I don't know where I am. Okay. Can't get to Park City if you don't know where you are. Like you can't. So those are 2 points, is point A and point B. Okay. Very simple math, right? It's how mapping works. You have to put in both set points. So we know where we want to go. We want to be wealthy. So the step on point B, that's the destination, is what's the number? Okay. How much net worth on your balance sheet do you have to be wealthy? So if you say you want to be wealthy, you better damn well know your number. Don't say you want to be it, then not have a number. Otherwise, then it's not real. It's just kind of bullshit. Like, yeah, I want to. You have to have the destination. It's like, I want to go on vacation, but I'm never going to set a destination. It's not going to happen. Again, it's the way reality works.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the destination. Now the second, so you need to know that number. So that's the homework.
Mm-hmm.
If you take the quiz, there's a guide that can help you arrive at that number.
Yep.
The second thing we need to know is a starting point. Where are we today? I call that the money spectrum. Are we in the negative? Are we at zero, or do we have a positive net worth? So how wealthy are we? Answer this question. If I were forced to quit working, or my household was forced to quit working today, whoever's kind of, one or both people bringing in income, if I or both of us were forced to quit working today and could not bring in any working income, how long could we last? 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, a year, 5 years, or forever? And this is reality. Like, money's no bullshit. It's like stepping on the scale. We can circle the scale because we want to put our head in the sand, and we don't want to see how we're saying, oh, I feel really tired. Oh my God, I have no energy. Wow, I don't fit in my jeans. Wow, I don't like the way I look in the mirror. Oh my God, my self-esteem is really crumbling because I put on all this weight and I feel miserable about myself. But I don't want to step on the scale. I'm just going to pretend and ignore and hope my life is going to change. Why do we want to not step on the scale? Because the scale tells the truth. And until the day we can face the truth, then we can be grown-ups and be like, all right, that sucks. I don't like what the scale is telling me, but now I know the truth. But now I know others have lost the weight before me. They've been in the same place that I have. I can find the right coach. I can find the right program. I can find the right yada, yada, yada. And I too, like all these other before me who've stepped on the same scale and saw the same thing they didn't like, but then changed it and produced the results they want. I can do that too. But we have to first step on the scale. We have to face reality. We have to just suck it up and, let her not beat ourselves up, just face the truth and say, today's the day that I'm going to make a change. Money's the same thing. Like, looking at our numbers we're talking about. Yeah, maybe there's an overdraft. Maybe there's different things. Yes, but ignoring it is not going to solve the problem. So we have to step on the scale and be like, yeah, that kind of sucks. But guess what? Other people like Krisstina, other people like Rachel, other, people that other women I really admire, they've been in this exact same spot, and holy shit, look where they are. I want to be where they are. If they did it, I can too. And oh my God, they can teach me exactly how they did it. And if I do what they did, you mean I could do it too? Well, that's easy. So then why don't we do that? Now that's a question for ourselves, why we don't do that. But that's available to all of us. Wealth is available to everyone, but we have to step on the scale and we have to do the work. Period. End of story. It doesn't happen, accidentally. So that's the thing, is how wealthy am I? And that's a grown-up moment. It's like, holy shit, if money were to stop, I could only last 3 months. And then, I'd be kicked out of my house. They'd take away my car. They would turn off the utilities. So we want to, over time, we want to extend that, and it's a journey. It happens over time. But when we're in the wealth game, we know it's a game. We know it takes time. But when we know our numbers and we're in the motion, we know we're going to hit it. And we know that this kind of margin just kind of creeps. It goes from 1 month to 3 months to 6 months to 9 months to a year. And once you have a year, like, hey, I could not work for a year and all my bills would be covered. Do you see the space there, as opposed to, man, if I don't go crush it or do whatever, I can last 45 days. That's that financial tension, that really short timeline. That's the tension. When we don't understand why we have financial anxiety, it's because in the back of our head, our bodies and brains and systems know that there's no space there. But now it's like, wow, I could quit my job and have a year. Oh my gosh, I could quit with a job that I hate and start a business and have some things there that I have that wiggle room. That gives that space, takes with anxiety away. You mean I have 5 years? You mean now I have 20 years?
Yes.
And that's what we're after creating, is what we call that horizon of time and that money spectrum. And the more time we have that way, and then we have cash flow coming from other sources versus just our hard work. And now that even grows it faster. This is the wealth game. This is how it works. This is compounding snowball effect. And it works automatically. It just works. But we have to have nature's, the laws of money working for us versus against us.
Yes, I co-sign on all of that. I'm tracking with you. And the question begs to be answered. Okay, Krisstina, I'm picking up what you're putting down. I'm here for everything. So how do I build extra wealth, right? I'm thinking I have one friend of mine that I'm thinking of in particular. Like, this poor woman has been through so much. And every time I talk to her, like, I can feel the anxiety around, just making ends meet. So if there's someone that's listening and they are on that month to month cycle, how does one break that cycle to be able to create this wealth that we're talking about and these multiple streams of income? Like, where do they start? Because they're already feeling like, I don't have an extra $5 or whatever, or 100 or whatever the extra number is.
Yeah, I mean,
Do they go
again,
get a second job?
we've all been there when, in one place or another,
Mm-hmm.
in one way or another. So, first of all, is to understand that where sometimes it can feel very personal, that my situation is very unique. It's really to understand that those of us that even have wealth, unless it was given to us,
Mm-hmm.
so that's a different category of people.
Mm-hmm.
But those that have kind of created it for themselves and started with nothing, we've all been in that spot.
Mm-hmm.
So it's to understand that where you are, others that have what you want have been there.
Mm-hmm.
So some of it's just like listening to a little story and some different things. So that's the first thing, is to understand I'm not alone. Other people have done it before me, and I don't have to be here forever. It's temporary.
Mm-hmm.
This is temporary. And then it goes back into, ask the question, why am I month to month? Is it because I don't have the skills to earn more money? Mm-hmm. Is it because, is it a self-esteem issue? Do I lack confidence? Am I being underpaid because I don't know how to ask for more money? Am I, so there can be all number of reasons why we're just barely making ends meet. And we just have to look at that, right? And a lot of it's just, hey, my current skills the value in the marketplace is only a certain amount. So if I want to earn more in the marketplace, do I need to learn new skills? Or like I said, it's a self-esteem issue. I mean, I'm being underpaid because I don't know how to ask for more money. Maybe somebody can help me with that. So it can be these little incremental baby steps that we just want to get to that next level, far from where we're going to be 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now. But it's like, what's the next level? Oh, I'm just barely making ends meet. Okay, that's point A. Point B is I'd like to have an extra $500 a month. That's, $500 a month would make a big difference right now. So to go back and ask the question, what's keeping me from making $500 extra a month? Which of these things? What's the problem I need to solve? Mm-hmm. Because there's always the solution when we can identify a problem. Mm-hmm. And there's a reason why we're month to month, Mm-hmm. So again, it's like, could I pick up a separate job for, just a few hours a month for an extra 500 for 6 months just to get me out of this trap I'm in now? Do I need to go learn another level of skill that can bump me up $500 a month if I have a job? Right. But so it's just like, what's that next B step, that next destination? Mm-hmm. Why am I not doing that? What's it going to take to get there? And you just keep doing that over time. And it's just the stair step of life that, month over month, and you just find yourself, but there's always people ahead of us. Yeah. Find somebody that's 2 or 3 steps ahead and follow them and ask them, that are very close to where you are. Ask them, how did you get out of this struggle and this month to month and this shit show that I'm in? I know you were there. How did you get there where you are now? Which is just 3 steps ahead of where you are. And ask them, or find that person, right? There's always a way. There's always a strategy. There's always somebody that's done it before. There's always the answers, but we have to get out of the narrative, out of this personal struggle in the narrative and all these things, and find the solution to get to the next destination.
To your point about the balance sheet and the P&L, which we didn't really talk about P&Ls, but I know when our listeners go and take the quiz, this was one thing I really loved about your quiz was, depending on however you answered, there was a little tip or a fact, and I really appreciated that. It was so clever. But to your point, in terms of having these records, the profit and loss statement and the personal balance sheet, as you're talking about asking people, how do you get out of it? I was thinking to myself, how did I go from, like my first year in business, I was charging $15 a month for a 4 hour long session. Can you believe that? Like, it baffles me. How did I get from there to, where I am now? And what was the growth like? And for a moment, I was like, I'm not even sure. But then I remembered, oh, I can just go look at our P&Ls from back in the day, and I can see what products we were selling and which were our top selling, what were our top line revenue numbers and our expenses for each of those products. And that can kind of give me clues, which I think, and I would love to hear your thought on it, but I think that this is why following the steps that you're talking about, paying attention to the numbers, having our personal balance sheet, knowing our net worth, knowing what we would do if we had the opportunity to invest $1 million, knowing where we would even invest that $1 million, all of it goes back to what you're saying is paying attention and keeping a record, because then the questions to ask, and then you can also bring someone along with you forward, right? I always think about how can I bring someone with me to the party or to the next level.
Absolutely. And that's why, look at those that have gone before you, people that follow you, your audience, all the listeners right now. It's to ask you to do your work, to follow your programs, your step-by-step numbers, because you figured it out one way or another. You probably did some of that figuring out by having your own mentors and things. And that's always the pay it forward. Mm-hmm. But it's us each individually to reach out to what we want next, mm-hmm. and find the people, the products, the programs, whatever it is that can get us from where we are to where they are now. Yeah. And that's the decision point we each want to make. And then we all need that kind of mentorship is just a factor built in. One other thing here, just, it's important to say that, this false money belief that the answer to all my money problems is to make more money. And again, that's part of the income mindset. And the wealth mindset, again, it's very different. It's not the answer to all my problems is to make more money. Knowing making more money many times just brings more problems and less money at the end of the day. So, but in the wealth game, there's something called a margin. So you said earlier, like, hey, I know my profit margin. That's awesome. Very few entrepreneurs I work with know even what a profit margin is. Even some of my best students still struggle with the idea of profit margin. So, but it's called the margin. And there's another kind of wealth law that says, wealth is created in the margins. So that's where the potential of wealth is all in the margins. So there's no potential for wealth when you're month to month, because there's no margin. Margin is the difference between, in this case, the money we make and the money we spend, for example. And it's the margin. So the profit margin in business is the difference between the revenue that the business makes and the profit the business keeps. And so that's a margin. So if we make $1 million and we keep $300,000, we have a 30% profit margin, and our profit is $300,000. So that's the margin. If we, like we said, if the business makes $1 million and we spend $1 million, that's a 0% profit margin and 0% profit. So the top line doesn't really matter. It's the bottom line, the profit we're looking for. So we want the $300,000. So we need $1 million business to earn $300,000 if the average profit margin for our industry is 30%. Pretty easy math. But again, this is knowing your numbers. So that's that margin. So that's the business margin. That's business. And we need a profit margin. And the more bigger our profit margin is, the higher profit, the more money we get to pay ourselves, because as business owners, that's the money we make is our profit. Now we move that $300,000 from the business. Now we move it into our household account. Now it's personal income, right? That $300,000. Now, same thing applies. So now people in business, they run profit and losses in their business all the time. But I said, do you run a profit and loss for your household? If not, because wealth is not created in the business, wealth is created in the household. Wow. So what's your household margin? And this is the work that I teach is different than everybody else that teaches in it, because I'm teaching you the truth that's not told. And wealth is created in the household. Wealth is not created in the business. Profits created in the business if you become a good business operator and generate enough profit that you can pay yourself. So you pay yourself $300,000. So we're going to back that up. Income is made through the margin of the business, that $300,000 of income, because that $300,000 that's business profit becomes household income, right? Are you following?
Yep, I am.
So that's what the business is. That's why you need a margin in the business, because that margin equals profit. Profit in the business becomes household income once it moves from business. All right. So now wealth is created in the margin of the household. So same thing, like in the business, make $1 million, spend $1 million, zero. If we now made $300,000 in our household, running the household like a business, and we spend $300,000 of expenses, is there any margin?
No.
No. So whether we make $50,000 a year and spend $50,000, that's zero margin. Whether we make $100,000 and spend $100,000, or zero margin. Now we doubled the business. We went $100,000 to $200,000, but now our expenses went up to $200,000, zero margin. Oh, then we even killed it more in the business and made $300,000 in 2022. And now our expenses just went up again to zero margin. That's the trap. It's called the earn, spend, invest, earn, spend, earn, spend, earn, spend, earn, spend. In that cycle, that's the money trap. That's the hamster wheel. That's the treadmill. That's the stuckness that people feel. We can see that happening. That's Parkinson's law at work. But now if wealth is created in the margins and we care about a balance sheet, if we make $50,000, we make sure we have a margin. And let's say that margin's 20%. So it means for the rest of my life, no matter how much, and I've taught my kids this. So, they're early in their careers, they're in their mid-20s. And their job, I said, your job is always to keep a margin. Your income is going to go up. So now you're making $50,000 a year. That's okay. As long as you have you're going to start with the 10%. Once you get over six figures, you're going to bump to a 20%, but you're going to start with that 10% margin. If you start with a 10% margin at 25, you're going to be wealthy when everybody else is just getting started at 45.
That's right.
Because you have your 20 years. So that margin is that, okay, I make $50,000. I'm only going to spend 40, and I'm going to take that, that 10,000, and I'm going to start putting it aside so I can put that money towards my balance sheet. Now, when I double my income and make $100,000, the same margin. I make $100,000, so now $20,000. It went from 10, now $20,000. I doubled my income. Now I get to double the money. That's the margin that I'm going to move aside to build wealth with. Now it's gone up to $200,000. Now it becomes $40,000 that I'm going to move aside and put into that. So the more money we make, the faster we can build wealth, as opposed to the same person that's made 50 for all their years. But even if they made 50 and kept their margin, they can become wealthy. They can have that financial freedom. There are plenty of people that make, a household income of $75,000 a year max, and they were, quote unquote, retire, and they're able to have the exact same lifestyle the day they quit working. It never making more than $75,000. Yet lots of people might make 100, 200, 300 and have to work to the day that they die because they never had the margin. So again, you can just see some simple math, but it starts with the end in mind. We have to know point A, we need to know point B. We have to get out of the income game and move to the wealth game. We have to know this margin. We have to know these simple numbers, and we have to manage our money.
Yes.
You have to have that relationship with money where you care so much about the money that brings to your life, how it pays the bills that create this great life, how it produces your future, how it can create extra surplus from philanthropy and giving more, how we can fund our businesses and others and keep that money growing and circulating. And as long as it continues to grow. And that healthy relationship with money and our desire to spend time with it, our desire to get good at it, our desire to create our wealth for ourselves, our families, and for others, all of that passion and new knowledge and energy. And then you just do it that way for the rest of your life. And you wake up when you're like, holy shit, this shit works. Look what I have. I just followed the dots, the yellow brick road. I just did what I was told. That was just all according to money's laws and principles. And here I am. Whoa. And it worked faster than I thought it was. All I did was do what I was told. But again, that's the wealth game. And we have to choose. And by doing that quiz and answering these questions, and it comes with making the decision of today's the day I'm going to get in the wealth game. And it's a 20-year game. And it's fun. And money has a different meaning.
Whew, I feel like this is one of those conversations where we need to listen to it more than once, for sure. The quiz, again, you're going to go to wisemoneymethod.com/quiz, which we have linked in the description of the show notes. But I also want to make sure that I point you towards the book that Krisstina has written, Falling for Money. Definitely go check out her book. She has a podcast called the Wealthy podcast, and we will link to it in the show notes because it's wealthy spelled like wealth and then wealthy spelled like wellness, but we'll link to that in the description. But friends, I have to tell you one more time, please, please, please go to wisemoneymethod.com/quiz and take the quiz. It is eye-opening, it's revelatory. And if you're listening to this episode and part of your head started spinning and you started telling yourself all the stories, look at the show notes because there are journal prompts that Krisstina already gave us. And if you are a longtime listener of the show, you already know how much I love journaling. But I wrote them down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's about 7 questions that Krisstina has asked us to get started. Plus, you're going to get the workbook when you take her quiz at wisemoneymethod.com. Krisstina, thank you for taking us to school, girl. You are amazing. I feel like I just got such a beat down in the best way when it comes to my money. Or I don't want to say beat down because I actually feel an invitation to level up is what I feel like you gave us.
It's a journey like anything.
Yes.
It's, we become I call it the beginner mindset when we could just say, hey, I'm kind of a beginner at this. And think of kids, they're beginners at everything, but they're so curious and they're picking up the rocks and they're turning things over, and just come in with the curiosity. And I'll end by saying that like you read in the bio, I've been studying this shit for a long time, but it came out of a desire of lots of fucking breakdowns and lots of chaos, right? So I've lost millions of dollars. I've made stupid mistakes. I started in a trailer home. I nearly lost my life. Like I've had to start over many times, but even the start over, when I started learning and just following the principles, even when I had to start over, it just works. So, I like to say, you say the same thing and it's oversaid, but if I can do it, everybody can. Wealth is available to everyone, no matter what our situation is. I promise everybody listening, I've been in your financial situation. I know how bad and how scary it can feel and how unsafe and all the things, you're the same. It's why I love you and love your work and just your passion, your spirit, and your love of life is life's dealt you some shitty things, but that didn't let it stop you. Look where you are today, and your spirit and your beauty and your humor and everything is bigger and better than ever. So it's just to understand that no matter where we are, we've all been there, right? And like, I think you'd say the same thing. If I can do it, you can too. So just stand on the shoulder of giants and know that, we've all had our journeys. It's been step by step. And we think that success is a linear line. It goes like this and it goes like this,
Yeah, it's a very up and down motion.
Very up and down. Right. So it's just knowing wealth is available to everyone. It's all written by law. When you learn the laws and you apply the laws, it's available, and it's much easier than we think. We are so afraid of this money thing and numbers, and then we have these mindsets and these beliefs, these narratives, these stories, and it just keeps us from taking the first step. And it's all nonsense. And it's like I said, it's just kind of one big bullshit game we've been handed to us. And when we start to study it and look under the hood, look behind the curtain, and it's the little bitty guy in the Wizard of Oz, it's like, really, this is the thing I've been terrified of. It almost becomes laughable. So I just say, if you want to build wealth, just take the first step.
And the first step is to go to wisemoneymethod.com/quiz and take the quiz. From there, Krisstina has so many resources so that you can dive deeper into these wealth laws that she's chatted about. And I'll take this opportunity to tell you to grab a copy of my book, Permission to Offend, and pre-order, because I was thinking about this, Krisstina. It's such a compliment to your work, because when you challenged me to think about my thoughts around what I was spending, I was like, oh, I got to put it through the framework for freedom that I talk about in my book. I've got to run it through the steps that I talk about in chapter 9. So our work is so complementary. So I want to encourage you all right now. First step is to go to wisemoneymethod.com/quiz. It's linked in the description right here on your device. It's also available on my website at rachelluna.com/podcast. So there are plenty of places for you to access it, take the quiz, and then from there, pre-order a copy of Permission to Offend and do this work together, because that's where you're going to see the momentum. That's where you're going to see that time is going to begin to collapse. Make sure that you subscribe to Kristina's podcast, the Wealthy Wealthy podcast. And Krisstina, thank you. Thank you for your wisdom. We are so blessed.
You're so welcome. And let's do more of this. Let's have more money conversation. But I love where you started. You're like, I love this conversation, money. And again, it starts there. Like, I just want to be part of the conversation. So well done, my friend.
We'll do it. Thank you, friends. See you soon.